I've seen several brands out there in the street, and maybe you've seen some of the brands out there where you come to find out that someone is using someone's business to grow himself, otherwise known as franchising. This is what we are going to talk about today. You're tuned to Now Tell Us, and I'm your host, Anthony Moirore. At Now Tell Us, we have guests come and tell us stories. They come and inspire us. They come and educate us on something. And as always, we have something to learn on a daily basis as long as we are willing to look right, left, and forward. We will learn something that can be helpful. And today we have a wonderful guest with us. His name is known as Greg, but I would like him to introduce himself once he's here. So be ready to learn as much as you can about franchising. Before we go to meet Greg, I would please request you to please share this episode with all your friends. If you have any questions as we get going, please ask. We would be glad to answer. Or any comment you want to make about this podcast, we love feedback, and therefore we are looking forward to it. And I know I'm taking much of your time where you should be or could be learning about franchising. So why don't you join me as we go to meet our special guest today, Greg Mohr. Here we go. Hi, Greg. Hello, Greg.
Anthony, good to see you today, sir. I appreciate you having me.
Good to see you.
How are you doing today, Anthony?
It is such an honor to have you here. I just hope that I got your
Honored to be here today, Anthony. Thank you.
I just hope that I got your second name right, Mohr. How do you pronounce that name?
Yes, sir. Mohr. Yes, just like that.
Mohr.
Nice and easy.
Mohr. Where does that name come from?
Oh, it's an old German name. Back my German heritage on that side. It came from, I don't know exactly what it means. Probably chocolate, because I love chocolate on that. But I'm not too sure on that one.
But you're not in Germany right now.
No. In the U.S., my relatives, they came over here from Germany, and then I had one or two from Scotland as well. A little bit of Scottish in my background as well. They came here 4 generations ago.
Okay, and that's where you were born. You grew up, so you have quite an experience there. I want to believe, as we always hear, you're living your American dream.
Yes, indeed. Here I am, definitely out in the boondocks, out in the wilderness, growing up my own food and helping people get into the world of franchising.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I know you've been here for some time. We can tell that. So what have you been doing for the past life that you've lived?
Well, it depends on how far you want to go back, Anthony. But throughout my career, I have, let's see, probably go back to 10 years old. I started my own kind of recycling business on that. We back then, when I was that age, you could turn bottles in for 10 cents a piece and aluminum cans for quite a bit of money at the time as well. So I got together some of my friends and we got together a little business and we did recycling on that so I can generate some of my own money. Then went and got a paper route when I was 14. I was a paper boy. That was back when we used to go door to door collecting the money for them. They don't do that these days anymore. I went on to get a job at Taco Bell, which is my first foray into franchising. When I was 16, I actually worked for a master franchisor. And then she owned about 50 different Taco Bells throughout the Woodland, California, Sacramento, California area. So I helped her build up her restaurants on there. So that really got my mind thinking about franchising at that time. I went on to manage another restaurant, a Lions restaurant, for about 15 years. It's kind of like an upscale Denny's on that one. Got bored with that, got a degree in electrical engineering and physics. Went on to become a microelectronic circuit engineer for Motorola Semiconductor, Freescale Semiconductor. Got my master's degree in business and another engineering friend of mine and myself, we bought a dry cleaners, privately owned dry cleaners, storage units, and then I had some rental properties of my own. And then I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that
Mm,
about ruined my corporate life for me. Because then I thought, yeah, there's something better out there. There's got to be. So both of us got out of the corporate world around that time. My friend that I had invested in the businesses with, I sold my shares to him, and I said, I got to go do my own business. That privately owned business was good. You got to do your own thing when however you wanted it. But I didn't know a lot about dry cleaning, and that was a real challenge trying to figure all that out. So I said that franchising thing was really neat. I want to get back into that. So I went out there and was searching for franchises. Found a great franchise consultant to help me. Who knew they existed? I didn't know at the time, but he put me into a great franchise. Schooley Mitchell Telecommunications Consulting, helping businesses with their telecommunications needs. Did that for a couple of years, but I really got to thinking about what that franchise consultant did. I said, I really like what you do, helping people out throughout the United States and actually throughout the world. I felt people in other countries come here, and I've taken franchises over into other countries as well. So I want to do that. I want to help other people realize their dreams. So I did that about 12 years ago and haven't looked back since.
wow, that's wonderful. What a good story. And there's something I love, and I don't know, you and I have read Robert Kiyosaki, and that's inspiring. It talks about investing. You say it ruined your your corporate career
Yeah.
life. It's interesting to hear. But anyway, apart from that, there is something that I really love, and this is what is happening today. I love speaking to people who've been there for longer than I have been. I can tell you've been here longer than I have been, because you have a lot of experience that you can share with us. And what better thing to have someone who's lived it, done it, and then coming back to share it with the world. And I actually find out that you've written a book, Real Freedom:
Yes.
Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building Wealth. So we thank you. I take this opportunity to thank you for being a positive impact to this world. So we are looking forward to read that book. We are looking forward to hearing you in this episode of what you have got to share with us with your great experience in franchising. And I don't know where to start because I have a lot of questions on this. Maybe tell us, for someone who's out there, maybe in the corporate world where they're just trying to make ends meet. Uh, how how do I identify that idea? How do I have that uh, awakening that, oh yeah, I need to go into franchising?
Well, Anthony, basically in franchising, I help ambitious, aspiring entrepreneurs and seasoned entrepreneurs find a good franchise fit, or flip businesses into franchises as well on that. So if you're out there and you're in the corporate world and you're thinking down the line that you're not probably going to get to where you want to be, or this is just not the thing that you want to be doing for the rest of your life, then looking into franchising is a great option to check out. You can look into privately owned businesses, running it that way, starting something up on your own, and at the same time, look at a franchise option as well. You've got that playbook when you get into franchising, the step-by-step playbook. So at the time when I was looking into it, I didn't have the latest, greatest idea, and I'd already bought a privately owned business and knew that was not the route I wanted to go because that was really challenging. So I'd known about franchising. It was always in my head there for a while. And I knew that they had that step-by-step playbook, so I could just walk right into a franchise and take off running. So it's a good option for people that are looking into going into business for themselves and wanting something a little bit more out of life than just that day-to-day 9 to 5 job.
What can be turned into a franchise, or what out there is a franchise, uh, and what cannot be made into a franchise, maybe?
Great question, Anthony. So what we look for, if you've got a business and you're thinking about turning it into a franchise, what we look for is, one of the things is, whatever product or service that you have, how many different cities and states can it be used in? Will people need it? The more your product or service can be used in almost any city or state, the more opportunities you have of people that are going to be interested in it. Now, not all franchises can be used in every city and state. We have there are boating franchises out there, boat rental franchises. Obviously, if you're out there in the middle of a desert with no water around you, a boat rental franchise is not going to work too well. But
Mm-hmm.
there's enough of them that'll bring in not only clients for your franchisees, but bring in potential franchisees who may want to be involved. So think about how your product or service can be used in how many different cities and states to bring in more people, to get more people interested in your business and becoming a franchisee. Generally speaking, 100,000 net or more is a good starting point for that sort of thing, because that's kind of what most of my people are looking for, is to replace their corporate income or bring in a good income on that. Now, not all franchises make that amount on that. There's some franchises that make a lot less, and they still sell really well, and they still have a lot of interest. They're really easy to operate on that. Some of the hair salons are that way. They're just simple to operate. People just pick up more than one location on that. So those are two good things. Is how can it be used? How many different cities and states can be used, and how many people need it? 100,000 nets, good. And if you've actually already reproduced that business or have more than one location, that's an added plus to that as well, because then people have seen that you've already replicated it, so it's easily replicable. You don't necessarily have to have everything in place. I've got a team of people that'll put everything in place for you, the systems, procedures, manuals that you need. So you don't necessarily need to have all that in place on there. They'll do all that for you, and they'll get you registered and all that. So those three things are pretty much good starting points, although not all of them are absolutely essential, but it is a good starting point.
Thank you for that. I've seen, and I am not going to mention about the brands but I have been into coffee houses and I have been to snack businesses, and I hear that they are franchises. And I was wondering, I haven't had a shop myself, and so I am not thinking of maybe opening a restaurant. But then, what is in the initial investment for someone who may not be thinking of offering their own services or their own products, but they want to buy into a franchise? What could be the figures that we could expect if I'm thinking in that area?
Great question, Anthony, on that one, because it's a big range on that. So there's basically two different categories that we can think about when we think about franchising. There's the brick and mortar franchises, and Anthony, those are the ones that you and I see all the time. The Burger King, McDonald's, Great Clips, Supercuts, Meineke, Mako. You build it, and they will come. General
Mhm.
theme on that one. Great plus location on that. For real estate location, you're probably looking at $400,000 or $500,000 total investment on something like that, because brick and mortars require a little bit more of a build out on that, a little bit of time to find the right real estate spot for you. And a great franchise system will do all that for you. If you go on the other end of the spectrum, the other group is what we're looking at is service industries. So when you think of service industries, think of things like senior care, tutoring, home services, whether it be outside, taking care of the lawn, remodeling kitchens, roofing, restoration services. All those are home services, and then building services, cleaning buildings, building maintenance for business to business type areas, business development franchises. Those are all services industries. Those are where your clients don't necessarily know you exist until they need you, and you need a great franchise system to drive them to you when that need arises. They're going to be around $150,000, give or take on that. So you're looking at a couple things. One, initial franchise fee is generally around $50,000 for any type of franchise that you get into on that one. Given, some are more, some are less, but generally around 50,000. The rest of it, the money that you put in, is going to be the total investment on that. So if you do something like I did with a school initial telecommunications franchise, my initial franchise fee, $50,000. The other added money that I have since I work from home was more just marketing and advertising expenses. So you can get in for under $100,000 on a lot of those small offices. That'll get you right around $150,000 on that. So basically, brick and mortar around $400,000 or $500,000 total investment, including franchise fee. Service industry $150,000, give or take, including the franchise fee on that.
And I have a practical example that we could use, and I'm going to use my own. And maybe you look at it, you analyze it, and then you tell them. And then someone will be thinking about their own, whatever it is that they are doing, and how they can turn it into a franchise, what part they can uh, and all the things that you can maybe point out in this example. Now, I've written books, and one of the books that I've written is a workbook. It's known as the Achieve Your Dream Workbook that has got the 7 ingredients for success. Now, many people have loved this workbook, and especially teachers and coaches. They have been offering it along with their whatever it is that they are doing as a tool to add to whatever they are offering. And then it came out, uh, I realized that okay, this book I can just go in there, talk about it as a keynote. That could be 1 hour. And this book I can also do workshops, of which I've done some workshops. Because if you give someone this workbook who doesn't know how to use it, then they will be lost. So I do a workshop, tell them, hey, this is how you use the workshop from A to Z. Then I realize this workbook can be turned, or being turned into a speech, being turned into a workshop, can be a retreat, a 2 or 3 days retreat, or 1 week retreat, where you come and talk about it, about achieving your dream, the things you can do to achieve your dream. And this thing also can be stretched into a course, several weeks course, such that on 1-to-1 we are talking with someone, and I am telling him how to achieve their own dreams, guiding them, answering their questions, and helping them. Now, which part of all this could be turned into a franchise, such that I say, okay, here's a workbook, here's a course, and you can just pay me that, and then take it and use it as I am going to guide you. Now, let's go into it, dive into it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you've got the workbook, you've got the step-by-step play action, you've got everything down there as well. So what you need then is to think about, okay, how many different people in different cities can use this? I would say everybody. Everybody in any city could use that information. So now what you do is you just take it and say, all right, I can divide these cities up. How many people is it going to take for me for my franchisees to reach that $100,000 mark on that of income on that? Does it take the entire city? Does it take half a city? What is the population? What is your demographics or looking like in there? With the service industry, they're looking at 200,000 households that have 100 or 1,000 or more disposable income. So that'd be something as a potential franchise owner or a franchisor that you'd be looking at. How many does it take? So in your case, maybe it just takes 200,000 people in there. So you divide your territories up into 200,000 people, into groups, 200,000 people with a certain income level on that. And there's software that'll map all that out for you. That's way down the line in there. So your people can bring in that kind of income. Everybody uses it on that one. And so you're doing it right now. So you've got something to show them that says, look, this is what I'm doing now. Here's my numbers that I have. Here's the type of people that I have. Simple as that. And then we have people that'll turn that into a franchise. So yes, something like that definitely could be put into it. Great system where I could envision that you having your people put on a lot of talks, uh, renting out an auditorium, getting people interested in that, coming there. Your folks, go through some of the workbook, some of the speech, get everybody kind of interested in there, and then have them sign up for that plan. And then your franchisee over there, then just walks everybody through that as part of the entire curriculum. And then you have a little certificate at the end saying that here, you get it. Your customers, you have certificate of completion. You completed this course. Now you're a master in this. You can go out and realize your dreams. So there it is in a nutshell.
Hmm. And for someone out there who may be having a product or a service that is having several parts, just like the example that I gave, would you advise someone to go it in parts or franchise the whole thing as a package? Which is the best way to go about that?
I would do the whole thing as a package. It
Mm-hmm.
makes it um, more advantageous, I think, if you put everything in there as one big package. Less for you as a franchisor to worry about, because then you'd have some other parts left behind that you might bring in at some other point in time. And then if you did, then you'd have to change your whole franchise disclosure documents, franchise agreement, that sort of thing. So put it all in as a package, a deal to begin with. Then it has more for your people, your franchisees to offer to their clients.
Hmm. Thank you for that. And I'm thinking, um, in everything, and this is in life, in every area of life, there are things that we can say, oh, it runs this way, and we get some ideas, some information, some education, and then we go to apply it, and then we get hiccups, we get some problem, or what we'd like to call challenges. What are the challenges that you have identified in this field, like
In
people?
franchising,
Mhm.
right. So in franchising, the first challenge is that if you want to get into a franchise, you have to make certain that one, that you're coachable, because you're going to have a coach that's going to help you out. You also, the second biggest thing is you're going to need to make certain that you can follow processes and procedures on that one. So I've got a simple process I take my people through to determine which franchise is right for them or if franchising is right for them. If they can't follow my process, then chances are they're not going to follow the franchisor's process because it's a little bit more in depth on that. So the biggest challenge once you get involved in a franchise is making certain that you are coachable and that you are going to take directions because they've got everything laid out in there step by step. The other challenges that my people run into when we're going through and looking at franchises themselves is overcoming fear, basically, of something new. Sometimes when I work with corporate people or people who, well, actually mostly just corporate people, or they are used to that paycheck. They're used to that weekly paycheck, and you don't have to step away from that. You can do it semi-absentee and keep the day job on that. There's many semi-absentee franchises out there, but for those who are actually stepping away from it, the biggest fear that they have, or who are unemployed at this time, is getting into something new and different that they don't know about on that. So I try and take them through that process, or I do take them through that process and educate them on franchising and how that'll work. So the fear of the unknown, the fear of writing that check for $50,000 and then the total investment on that, that's a big challenge for a lot of folks. And then if you're going to run a semi-absentee, is the other challenge that they'll run into as they're going through there and learning about the franchises is you will have to put time into that franchise, into that business to get it grow. 10 to 15 hours a week is probably about standard what they say for semi-absentee, but it can vary a little bit. So they have to be prepared for the fact that it is a business. It's not simple and easy all the time. On that, it does take a little work, just like everything else in life. If you want to be successful, it's going to take a little work to do. So you just have to be prepared for that. And there's a little bit of fear and uncertainty in that area. But I get them on the phone with as many franchisees as possible that have started at semi-absentee, so they really get a good feel for exactly what's going to be involved in that. And then they have to decide, okay, am I ready for that at this point in time in my life?
And I agree with you that fear is a big thing in a lot of areas in life. Getting into something that you've not done before and it's your first time, you've got just to have every. Because I'm asking myself several questions. And number, is it gonna work? Am I gonna get back my investment? Am I? Is my family going to support me? So many questions. There we are. And thank you for giving us that confidence that yes, it can work. So let's look a bit more in your book, and tell us what one thing that you'd like us not to miss in your book once we get, for those people who are going to get it.
The the different options that you have out there with franchising. Not a lot of people realize how many different options there are with and in franchising itself. There's probably a franchise in just about any industry out there on that. So really open your mind to the possibilities. Does not have to mean that you have to know that industry or be familiar with that industry, but you have to actually picture yourself doing that and being able to picture yourself doing that in that industry. The franchisors will teach you everything you need to know, but really, I want people to know that there are many different options out there in the way of franchising. And if you're really interested in getting into a business of your own, there will be an option out there for you.
There will be an option out there for you. Now, that's good to know for anybody who is maybe contemplating about franchising and don't know where to start. And in actual fact, In your book, you talk about, in chapter number 9, you talk about international franchising. Tell us a little bit about that, because we've talked about.
So with international,
Go ahead.
yeah, great, sorry, great question. At the international franchising, there's a couple of different ways to go about doing it. If you wherever you're at, if you want to stay there, in whatever country you're at, there's probably many franchises that are in there in your country already, or there's franchises that are looking to go into that country as well. So you will have many options also. If there's a franchise that hasn't been in your country before, they might want you to step up and be more of a big area developer or master type franchises, where you help other franchisees in your area do it, or bring that in on that. But there's many different ones that are just really looking to get into other countries and expand their horizons on that. If you're in another country and if you're thinking about, I'd like to move to the United States, but I don't know how, then that would be like an E2 visa or an EB5 visa. The E2 5 visas where you invest $100,000 into a business, specifically a franchise business, and you hire 2 employees here in the U.S., and that covers your E2 visa for that one. And then what they'll do is they'll just, I think every 2 to 4 years, I think they just make certain that you're still working the business, and you have to generate an income for your family on that as part of the visa deal. With the EB5 visa, it's a little bit more for that one. Generally speaking, I think right now you're looking at around $1 million investment, hiring about 10 people, and that's your path to get to a green card once you get that done on there. So either way, if you want to stay in your country and you're looking at different franchises, many different franchises are looking to go there. Or if you want to come to the United States, absolutely a great route to look into.
Hmm. In chapter number 2, where you're talking about choosing the right franchise, you talk about 7 franchising mistakes. Maybe some of what you've shared there, you've already talked about it when I asked about the challenges or problems. That's what I'm guessing. But I would like to ask about securing funding. What do you mean by this?
So with
Securing.
funding a franchise, yeah, if you're already in the United States, Anthony, if you're going to fund a franchise here, there's 2 different routes to go for, 2 different routes to use, either other people's money or your own money. So a lot of my investors love using other people's money. Great way to go. As long as the investment services the debt, they're good to go. Generally speaking, if you're looking at, like, say, an SBA loan, for instance, 7A loan, if you're going to get something in the way of a brick and mortar type franchise, you'll be looking at putting down about 20% on that one. If you go with the service industry franchise, generally you can get like an SBA Express loan, and that's around $150,000 to $200,000. All you need for that is around $20,000 down, and then the SBA drops the other money into your account. That's a really good way to go on that. We get it done pretty quickly on those ones. The service industry is real good for the SBA; they can go fast. And then it just depends on your good credit, basically, on that. Franchises are easy to fund because they have that proven track record of success on that. So it just comes down to what kind of credit rating do you have, and do you have the net worth requirement for that franchise? But the franchisor has already gone through that process, and no, you do, or they wouldn't be talking to you on that. So nobody wants you to run out of money on that one. So that's using other people's money. Now, if you want to use your own money, the way to go there is you can do like a home equity line of credit on that one. Some people go that route. A lot of my folks actually do what is called a 401k, an IRA or a 401k rollover into a self-directed fund on that one. And that's using your retirement money, roll it over into a self-directed account. And then what you do is you can buy stock in any C corporation. So what you do is create a C corporation for your new business, and then you just buy stock in your C corporation, transfer that money from the 401k plan into the C corporation's checking account. That's what I did to start my business. It sounds complicated, but it's actually a very simple process. Again, we have people that do that for you and take care of all the paperwork, make sure you're compliant with the IRS. And that's what I wanted to do because I did not want to go into debt. Definitely a personal opinion on that, one way or the other.
So you say it's a simple process, and then at some point you pointed out that it's one of the easiest things to do to get funding for a franchise. So I get the idea, oh, I'm gonna get rich quick. How's that?
Well, that's mistake number 3, I think. Don't think
Yeah,
you're gonna be rich quickly. It
yeah.
does take time. It does. Don't discount funding. Always look at funding, and don't think you're gonna be rich quickly on there. But you'll find out when you talk again. And the other mistake is make certain that you talk to as many franchisees as possible, because then you get a good idea when you're going to be rich. How long will it take? What do you have to do to get there? And then you picture yourself doing that. If you can, you're off to the races. If not, move on to another franchise or hire somebody to do it for you.
Which could be about how many years, maybe, that I'm gonna get rich? Am
You,
I?
that depends on the franchise. If you're looking at a brick and mortar, it's going to take a little while longer than that because you've got a lot of overhead on that one on there. If you're looking at a service industry franchise, you're pretty much up and running right away. So you could be up to where you want to be, easily a couple years on that one. Just really, since Rich is kind of open on that one, um, it just depends on what you consider rich. More amount of money or both on that industry will definitely get probably quicker than the brick and mortar industry. Again, it really comes down to what do you feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, or what we call real freedom. To anybody who's joining us right now, we are talking with Greg Mohr about franchising. He's written a book called Real Freedom: Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building. And this is not the only book he's written, so you better find out from him whatever else that he's doing, because he's got a wealth of information and he can make you wealthy. Now, let's go to a bit other direction now, because you talk about one of the mistakes that people make is not talking to other franchises out there, but that's not where I'm going. I'm going in this direction. You've succeeded, you've achieved whatever it is that you've achieved in life from learning from other people. Like you told us, you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I've read also. And then you could be, that's an area that you are not interested in. But in this franchising area, who has been your biggest inspiration? Because you could be having some names out there.
Oh, my two biggest inspirations in franchising would be Kathy, the one that I worked for the Taco Bells. She was great. She had 50 of them, and she didn't actually, she had plenty of time to do whatever she wanted to, and she had 50 Taco Bells, and I was really quite surprised. She'd come in every once in a while to some of them and work them, and she taught me, how to work with people, how to get teams to work with you, how you work with teams, how you build your people up. Great inspiration, and really got it into my head that franchising was great. And then when I first got into franchising, Dennis Schooley over at Schooley Mitchell, he really set the stage for, yeah, that franchising thing is not just Kathy, it's, Dennis. He had that plan, just bang, 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 outlined exactly who do I talk to, what do I got to do, what do I got to say, how do you approach these people, show them that you've got something that'll make their lives better for them on that one, something that they need, they want. And so those two, Dennis and Kathy, were just great influences on the rest of it. And that's when I decided, I've really got to help other people find that freedom through franchising.
And thank you for having you here, because you're going to be someone's inspiration, someone who's listening or watching our podcast. Who knows? And they could be just getting some ideas from right here. And because maybe they would want to follow up with you. How can they do that once we are through with the episode?
Anthony, they can simply go to my website, franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, MAV as in Victor, EN.com. They can email me at greg@franchisemaven.com, or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
I'm sure they got that. If they didn't, please rush over to franchisemaven.com and you get more information. You get ways to contact Greg, or also connect with him on his social media and learn more about franchising. And I'm looking forward to meeting with some of you out there, and you tell me, "Hey, Anthony, I got rich from listening from your on your podcast."
I love it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Greg, we are just about to end this show, but maybe one or two questions, and then we're gonna end it. And one of the question is, what's in the future for you?
I've got another book that's coming out. I'm writing with a few other authors on entrepreneurship. So that one will be coming out very shortly on that. And then with my book, I've had a lot of people that ask the same questions over and over again. So that's why I wrote the book, to answer a lot of those questions with some real world examples of the people that I've worked with before. So I might put together a podcast going over some of that information as well. And I know a lot of people like to watch podcasts, so I thought I'd just kind of put some of that information in podcast form as well, and get that out there to folks. It's all about really about education, because with franchising is a good thing. It's a good option to have, not necessarily for everybody. So that's why I like to put that book out there, so you really get kind of a feel for it to begin with, and then make that decision if it's right for you on there. If it is, then hopefully you'll give me a call on that one. But if it isn't, you'll know as you go through that information in the book, and then I'll put together a little bit of a podcast series to do that as well.
And education is one of the most important things. So we are happy that you're thinking in that direction. If you have no information, then you cannot know uh, the direction you should be heading, or where you should be looking to end up or accomplish in life. So get education, get education. Leave us with something that we should never forget coming from Greg. What would that be?
Never forget what your dream or your goal in life is. Always work towards that. Write it down. Find out, what do I have to do to get to where I want to be in life, and follow that path.
Thank you. Find your dream and follow your path and achieve it. Once again, thank you very much, Greg. We are honored to have had you here.
Thank you for having me, Anthony. It's been an honor being on your show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we are very honored to have had you here. You've shared quite wonderful insights there. Let's go into franchising. And to everybody who's out there who's been watching or listening, please remember to subscribe to our channel, whatever it is that you're watching us on. And until next time, we just have to remind you that this is Now Tell Us, and I have been your host, Anthony Morore. We had a wonderful guest today, Greg Mohr. And until next time, it's bye for now. Bye.